Hello and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I wanted to give you guys my thoughts on high street cashmere by pitting them against each other to find out which one comes out top, in my opinion anyway. Right, let's get started with my first brand, which is Marks and Spencer. So this is my first ever cashmere jumper. It's my first ever piece of cashmere, so it is about 6 or maybe even 7 years old. I'm not entirely sure. I reckon it's probably about 6 years old now. And it is just the classic crew neck in black. It's still going. I absolutely love this jumper. It has been a very trusted staple within my wardrobe and has had so much wear. Now, originally the cashmere collection at M&S had, I think, about 4 colours, and they had a V-neck and a crew neck, and there wasn't really a great deal of range. If we fast forward to now, the basic crew neck is now available in 13 different colours. There's now cardigans, there's loungewear, there's accessories like beanies and scarves and gloves, and there's a few different sort of additional jumper options as well. So the range has really expanded, and I think that's because of its popularity. So here is how I am going to score Marks and Spencer cashmere, starting off with softness. So for softness, I'm going to give them a 3.5. The reason for that being that I think they have changed supplier at some point over the last 6 or 7 years, because my original purchases, this one, and I believe also this one was purchased not long after this one, these are so soft. But then I bought one a few years later and that didn't feel as soft. And I've also seen similar points along these lines mentioned in the reviews. So I think that they have changed supplier, which obviously does happen a lot with any brand, even, you know, more in particular with high street brands. I think they've changed supplier and the cashmere now doesn't feel as soft as what it used to be. Does that put me off? It doesn't. Having said that, I haven't actually purchased any Marks and Spencer cashmere in, I would say, the last 3 years. That's not for any particular reason, probably because I have more than enough cashmere, as you will see. But yes, the softness has definitely slipped a little bit since I purchased my first one. Now, thickness. So for thickness, I'm going to give them a score of 3. And the reason for this is because they only have one thickness. I think what Marks and Spencer cashmere is really good for is being essentially the autumn-winter equivalent of a basic, of like a t-shirt. And I've said this, I think, over numerous videos over the years. This jumper here in particular, my classic black crew neck, that was always my go-to come the autumn-winter seasons instead of a black t-shirt. And this is for layering, so under a blazer, under a coat. And yeah, come winter time, I might add a thermal underneath or even some sort of basic underneath, just as an additional layer. But these cashmeres are not the kind of pieces which you could wear on their own when it starts to get a little bit brisk outside. I mean, it's about 14, 15 degrees outside here at the moment now. It's not the sort of thing I would wear on its own for hashtag sweater weather. So that's why I'm giving them a 3, because they only have one thickness that runs throughout all of their items. Now on to washability, and I'm going to score them a solid and enthusiastic 5. So as I've said, I've had this jumper for about 6 years. I have lost count, couldn't even tell you how many times I've washed it. I've washed it so many times, and it washes incredibly well. One thing Marks and Spencer are really good at is making easy care garments. So this is actually machine washable cashmere, which is great. You can't just bung it in the wash though and whack it on like 40 or 50 or 60 with all your towels or your underwear or whatever. There is a process of care with cashmere, so make sure you go and watch that video if you're unsure on how to care for cashmere. Moving on to overall quality, and I'm going to give them a 4. Whilst they are excellent basics to have, they've just slipped ever so slightly on that softness, and that's why I've kind of stolen a little point off them there. And finally, on to price, I am going to give them a 5. Just taking the classic crew neck jumper, for example, the current price is £85, which I think in terms of quality and longevity and how they wash, is incredible value for money. Now, for any of you out there who might be cringing at the thought of spending £85 on one single piece of knitwear, I hear you, I get it, £85 is a great deal of money to be spending on one piece of clothing. My tip would be, have a look online or in charity shops, and we're talking anywhere that sells pre-loved garments. So online, you're looking at Depop, eBay, Vinted, and any of those other kind of websites and apps. And then in charity shops and secondhand stores, because you can often get a real bargain. And finally, I'm just going to discuss some size points for Marks and Sparks cashmere. So one plus is that their size range is from a UK 6 to a UK 24, which in all honesty often blows a lot of brands out of the water because they are very size inclusive. That said, these jumpers are a regular fit, so I always upsize in them. Now granted, fit is going to be down to personal preference. Not everyone might like the big sort of oversized slouchy fit that I prefer, but just as a general rule when it comes to buying cashmere, I would always size up by a minimum of one size, and that is just to accommodate for any shrinkage in the wash. Right, moving on to brand number 2, and that is H&M, the Premium Collection. Now I say the Premium Collection because it is specifically this collection in which you can find the cashmere pieces. Now I've got a few different pieces of cashmere from H&M that I've had over the years. This item here, and actually if I just stand up, I've got the matching joggers on as well. These are actually 2 current pieces, so I'll link these down below in the description box for anyone that's interested. They come in a few different colours, but then I've also had some thicker pieces over the years as well, because these ones are a little bit thinner. They are, I don't want to say hit and miss, but because they never do the same styles each season, it's difficult to sort of get used to a quality or a baseline of quality. Some of them are thick and some of them have washed really well. Some of them are thin and have washed really well, and some of them are thick or thin and haven't washed well. So there's just a real sort of variance with H&M cashmere, and I suppose part of it is potluck. Right, so I'm going to get on to the scores. First things first is softness. Now, over the pieces that I have owned, I'm going to give them a 4 for softness. And that's because across all of the pieces that I've owned, there has been a real continuity in the softness. And do you know what? It's lovely, it's beautiful, and it doesn't lose its softness when washing. It only softens up even more. Even on some of these thinner pieces, they are beautifully soft. Now for thickness, I'm going to give them a 4.5, and that's purely because they have variation. So they have some thinner pieces like the loungewear that I've got here, but they also have some thicker pieces. Now this comes with a slight little caveat, because there is an issue when it comes to thickness, and that is that you just don't know when you're shopping online, and the majority of their cashmere is an online exclusive, which is really helpful. So in every H&M product description, it will tell you like a little bit about the garment, and then it will tell you what it's made out of. So it could say 100% cashmere, but you've got absolutely no idea, not a Scooby, on how thick that garment is. So my little tip for you guys, if you are looking at the H&M cashmere collection, is to go by price. Some of the slightly, I don't want to call them cheap, because cashmere is never cheap, even when it's high street, but some of the lower price pointed cashmere, I feel, and this is kind of how I've gauged it over the years, often tends to be the slightly more thinner cashmere, and the cashmere that's more to the top end of their pricing scale, those tend to be the thicker pieces. Now this is not a guaranteed method, but it's just something that I have found quite useful over the years when ordering. Now on to washability, and I'm going to give them a 3. And the reason for that is because there hasn't been any continuity in the washing. Now, as I've said before, I wash all my cashmere exactly the same process, regardless of how much it costs. And some items have had more shrinkage, and some items have not. So it's a good job that I do size up. Otherwise, some of the pieces might be too small now. So the thing to note about H&M, it's a huge retailer, as you will know. They are never going to have the same supplier. They will chop and change their suppliers to get the best deal. And even they have quite an extensive range of cashmere now, I would say. Their collection's growing. And I would say even looking at that collection, let's say the current collection now, there'll be many pieces which are not from one same supplier. So that's just something to be wary of. It's kind of, dare I say it, trial and error. For overall quality, I'm going to give them a 4. Despite their ever-changing supply chain, I am quite happy with the quality of the pieces that I have had over the years. There may well be a few that have been an absolute miss that I've just not purchased, so they've sort of escaped my radar. But overall quality, I'm really happy with. They're getting a 4 just because within this video, there are some really, really good brands coming up that I just think the quality is top notch. So they're not quite getting a 5, but a solid 4. Now for price, I'm going to give them a 5 because I think they are affordable, and I use that term quite lightly because I realise that the word affordable is going to mean different things to different people, but their price range is from $79.99 up to $139.99. That's currently on their website for their cashmere pieces. Now one little tip would be that they do actually have some cashmere blend pieces, so we're talking sort of 90% wool, 10% cashmere, which I understand in comparison to 100% cashmere is not a great deal, is not a high content, but it does lower the price when it is mixed with another fibre like wool. So you could potentially lower that kind of price range by adding in a little bit of wool in there as well. Now regarding size, their size range, or sort of core size range, goes from an extra small, which is supposed to be a UK 6, to a large, which is supposed to be a UK 16 to 18. Now just for size reference, this here is an oversized piece. This one I'm wearing a size small, but in a lot of my jumpers I have sized up when they haven't been necessarily oversized. I've sized up so that they're more of an oversized fit and also to accommodate for any of that shrinkage, and I've gone for a medium. In the bottoms that I'm wearing, I'm also wearing a size small. Now my only issue with their size range is that potentially if you are wanting to upsize, if you're a size 14 onwards, there's not really a lot of leeway in their size range. Right, moving on to brand number 3, which is my personal favourite all-rounder, Arket. Now Arket have a nice little offering of cashmere. They've got cardigans, jumpers, a couple of dresses, loungewear, and then accessories. So gloves, snoods, beanies, scarves, wrist warmers, socks, really good thick ribbed socks. I've got quite a few of those upstairs and they are delicious. Now, one thing to note about Arket cashmere is that it is not 100% cashmere. They use a 75% cashmere mix. So it's 75% cashmere, recycled cashmere, mixed with wool, which is certified by the Responsible Wool Standard, and that's something that I've touched on previously in other videos where I've mentioned knitwear. I'm not going to go too deep into it now because I feel like this is going to be a long-ish video, but I will leave a link down below in the description box where you guys can read up on the Responsible Wool Standard and familiarise yourself with it, because it's quite an important term to sort of get to know, especially when you're buying knitwear. Or it might be important to you, it might not be, but the link's down below if you want it. So, Softness. This might surprise you, especially given the fact that the cashmere from Arket is not 100%. It's going to get a 4.5 because it is very soft. The reason it's not getting a 5 is because there's one brand coming up that is just top of the soft, if you will. So it's getting a 4.5, but it's very, very soft. It's a beautiful, really, really beautiful softness of cashmere. Now on to thickness, in which I am giving them a very enthusiastic 5. Reason being, that Arket cashmere is what I would determine as the perfect thickness of cashmere. Now I know it's mixed with wool, which will sort of, I don't know, amp it up a little bit, but, and I've got another brand which is coming up which has got thick cashmere, it is the perfect thickness. It's not too thin like the Marks and Sparks, because they have some thicker pieces like an oversized roll neck, which I have, I think 2 colours of that one, and it is again the kind of jumper, the kind of knitwear that you can wear outside and you don't necessarily have to wear a coat. So it's perfect for sweater weather because it has that thicker option. But they also have some more sort of layering pieces in some thinner sort of more classic crew neck pieces as well. So just for that variance, a 5. For washability, I'm going to give them a 4. They're not as easily washable as the Marks and Spencer pieces. And I think that's because they have that little bit of wool content in here, and wool just does not like getting wet. So initially when I've washed a piece of my Arket cashmere, it can sometimes feel like in the fingers a little bit chalky, and therefore when you put it on it can feel a little bit stiff. However, it is not a long-lasting effect. With a couple of hours wear, I find that the softness and sort of the movability of each piece has regained its usual form. So it's not a long-lasting stiffness. For overall quality, I'm going to give it a 4.5. Again, I love Arket. You know, perhaps I'm biased. It's just one of my favourite brands. I can never really fault their quality on anything. But there is another brand that's going to beat them, which we're going to get to, so that's why they're only on a 4.5. Now, on to price, and it's a little bit of a difficult one when I start to get to brands like Arket, because their prices are considerably more than the likes of H&M and Marks and Spencer, but I'm going to give their overall price a 4, just because of the quality, because of the element of recycled cashmere in there as well, and also for durability, because it's mixed in with that percentage of wool that does give the cashmere or the fabric a bit more hardiness. So for longevity, I think that's going to amp them up, and that's why I'm going to give price a 4. Now on to sizing, and Arket's kind of core size range, at least for their cashmere, although this goes for the majority of their garments as well, is from an extra small, which is the equivalent of what they say is a UK 6, to a large, which somehow they have negotiated that is an 18 to 20. I don't know if I buy that. Now, I don't have an experience with any other body shape other than my own. You guys know I like to upsize. So this cashmere cardigan here, I've upsized to a size medium. If anyone is a different body shape, different size, please do leave your feedback down in the comment section below. So many people find it incredibly useful. Let us know your thoughts on the sizing and what you genuinely think a size large is, because I just do not think that it's a size 18 to 20. If that is the case, then if you're looking at upsizing, again, it doesn't give you much leeway to upsize if you're getting into the sort of larger end of the sizes. Brand number 4, I've switched my piles and we are on to COS. Now COS is a brand that I have only really started shopping with over the last couple of years. It wasn't really a brand that I sort of dipped a toe into. And so I don't know if because I'm a relatively new customer that I just didn't know they did cashmere before, but the first time I ever noticed their cashmere was autumn, or rather late summer last year, and that's when I bought my first piece of COS cashmere. And well, it was love, borderline, obsession. I have now become a COS cashmere creeper. I'm there creeping at the website every couple of weeks to see if they've uploaded any new pieces of cashmere, because it's beautiful, genuinely beautiful, and I will explain why in my scores. Okay, so for softness, I am gonna give them a solid hardcore 5. there is no hesitation for me giving them a 5 in softness. It's literally the most tactile cashmere that I have ever owned, and that says a lot because I've got some very expensive cashmere from some big brands in my collection, and COS Cashmere really gives them a run for their money. I'd say in some cases the softness of this cashmere is actually sort of blows some of them out of the water. Now on to thickness, and I'm sure you will see this from the way that I'm fondling it versus perhaps some of the other brands that I've already spoken about. This cashmere is thick. Now, the pieces that I own are all from the thicker sort of array of cashmere that they have. They do have, again, I think a lot of brands carry this, but the core classic crew neck, which is a little bit thinner. And whilst I don't own that, I have had a fondle of it in store. But all of the pieces that I've bought, and this I think is just because when I looked on the website, I could tell they were thick. And that's why I bought them, because I love a thick, cosy cashmere jumper. For washability, they're also getting a 5. Now, it does say on the label that you can machine wash cold these cashmere pieces, which is how I wash mine anyway. And to be honest with you, every single one of them has come out good as new. Again, I will point you back to that video where I show my process of how I launder my cashmere pieces. But yeah, no complaints in terms of washability. Now for overall quality, they're also getting a 5. Now all of the COS cashmere is GCS certified, which stands for the Good Cashmere Standard. And this basically ensures that the cashmere is fully traceable. Aside from that fact, again, I have to mention, and I'll say this until I'm blue in the face, I know I sound like a broken record, but it is on par, sometimes if not better, than a lot of other premium branded or very expensive cashmere that I own. It's incredible quality for high street, honestly. I think that's why it's been such a popular seller online. Now in terms of their current prices, their classic crew neck, which I don't have here, but the thinner one, that is £135. So it's a little step up from, you know, the likes of H&M and Marks and Spencer. And then we get on to this thicker stuff. So the crew neck, these are 180, and these funnel necks are breaking the 200 barrier. These are £225. Which is a lot of money, but again, they are beautiful. So with that in mind, I'm gonna bring their pricing score down to a 4, just because it's not super affordable for a wider range of people, but at the same time, I think it is incredible value for money. And you've also got that traceability in there as well with the Good Cashmere Standard certified cashmere that they're using. When we're looking at size, the ones that I have here are all described as oversized. So I have got them in a size small, so I haven't needed to upsize. I've had no issues with like shrinkability or anything like that, so they're still very much the oversized fit that I wanted them to be, even after washing. But their size range is the same as Arket, from an extra small to a large, so again, not fully size inclusive. Right, and now on to my final brand, which is a new one for me. These are newish purchases over the last few weeks, and it is Uniqlo. So I bought the V-neck that I have on, which, can I just say, I love this, and I would happily buy this in other colours. I just think it's lovely. I love the V-neck. It's a nice fit. I will get onto sizing at the end, because that is something that I have upsized quite a bit in. I've also then bought a sort of moly colour basic roll neck, and I have bought a classic crew neck in black, and that is purely because my Marks and Spencer one now is coming on in age, and I thought it would just be good to have, I don't know, a backup option or something to just sort of have as an alternate black classic crew neck. Now, another point would be that Uniqlo I am likening to Marks and Spencer in the way that these are basic pieces. They're also core pieces which they are bringing out every autumn winter season without fail. They might slightly adjust the colours, or perhaps they might add a new colour, remove a colour that's maybe not selling, or add a colour that's very on trend for that season. But they're essentially bringing out the same products year after year. So on to the scores. For softness, I'm going to give them a 3. Because actually they don't feel as soft as the Marks & Spencer ones. They actually don't feel as soft as even the newer Marks & Spencer ones, which are less soft than the original older Marks & Spencer ones. So in terms of softness, these pretty much come bottom of the pile. But that said, they are still soft. I'm not saying that they're rough or scratchy. It's cashmere. It's in the nature of the fabric to be soft. But there's just something about them that doesn't feel as soft and sumptuous. And to be honest with you, it might be the thickness, because if I give this one here a squidge, it's just delightful. It's so soft, and it might be down to the thickness that's kind of putting me off a little bit on that. And that leads me on to their thickness score, which I'm giving a 2.5. These are the thinnest of the lot. They are definitely thinner than the Marks & Spencer cashmere. And do you know what? They almost feels like the fabric is more compact. And when I thought this, I had a look online, because obviously I bought these in store, so I didn't really see any of the information about them. When I had a look online, it says that that feeling of the fabric being more compact, it's actually a tighter knit. That's deliberate, and it's done for durability. So whilst I'm giving them a low score for thinness, they are supposedly more durable. I can't really attest to durability just yet, because I've had them for about 3 weeks, so it wouldn't really be a fair kind of thing for me to comment on. If you've had cashmere from Uniqlo, which is over a year old, please do leave your feedback down in the comments section below and let us know about the durability and how you're getting on with it a year on. Now on to washability. I've actually only washed one of these pieces, and it's the one that I've got on, the V-neck. I'm giving it a solid 5. I'm really happy with the washability. To be honest, it came out as good as new. Now again, I haven't washed this anywhere near as many times as my Marks & Spencer cashmere, because it's 6 years old. So again, if you've got feedback, you're gonna have to help me out with this Uniqlo one, for any of you that have had pieces over a year old and you've washed them multiple amounts of times. Let us know how they get on. But from me, they're scoring a 5. When it comes to overall quality, I'm gonna give them a 3.8. And that's just because I've scored them quite low for the softness and for the thickness, because it's the only option of thickness that they have, and that's thin. But I'm going to give them a 3.8 because apparently they are more durable. It's not necessarily what I would look for in cashmere, whilst I've really been enjoying wearing all of them, this one in particular. They have been more of like a loungewear option that I've worn at home, whereas items like my COS cashmere, which obviously you guys are probably being able to tell that this is my favourite, they, I feel like, are just a lot more substantial. It's more substantial knitwear. So whilst I think they're a little bit thin and not very soft, they kind of do a good job as a core basic for layering underneath a blazer or a coat or whatever. So they are, you know, one of those core wardrobe staples in a similar way to the Marks & Spencer ones. For price, I'm going to give them a 4.5. The current price, and they're all the same for all of these different styles, is £109.90. I'm giving them a 4.5 because I think that's good value for money with all of those design elements that they've got in there. So along with the fact that the fabric is a tighter knit, for durability, they've also been knitted with a specific non-stretch pattern. Now I upsize in my cashmere, as I've mentioned, so for me stretching has never really been a concern. In fact, if a piece of cashmere of mine did stretch, I'd probably welcome that, because I love things being oversized and snuggly and cozy. But again, I think it's just a sign of sort of how they've been designed. They have been knitted with this special pattern to avoid stretching. So apparently they're stretch resistant Again, I can't really comment on if I've had any experience with that. To be honest, I wouldn't really be unhappy if I did have a bit of stretch. And on to size. So size is quite important when I'm going to discuss the pieces that I've got from Uniqlo. The roll neck, polo neck, and the V-neck, I'm both wearing in a size extra large. Now, according to their Find My Size little widget that they've got on their website, my size for a UK 10, for it to fit, you know, normally, shall I say, not in an oversized way, would be a size medium. So I've upsized by a few sizes there to get this extra large, to have this more slouchier sort of, you know, just roomier, more comfortable kind of fit. But that's just something to bear in mind if you like the same kind of fit as me, because their size range is from an extra small to an extra large, and whilst they don't actually offer like a conversion chart into UK sizes, the only conversion chart that they have on their size chart is to US sizes. But what is incredibly useful is that they do offer the precise measurements for every single size and for every garment. So that is very useful. Okay, so there we go. Those were my thoughts on high street cashmere from COS, Arket, Uniqlo, H&M Premium and Marks & Spencer. I hope you found this video useful in some way if you are potentially looking at investing in some cashmere for your wardrobe. Perhaps you're looking at doing what I did when I turned 30, and that's just sort of upgrading some of my core pieces in my wardrobe to something a little bit more luxurious and a little bit higher quality. Thank you, as always, for watching, and I will see you next time.